hey, welcome to the Light Reading Podcast. I'm Jeff Baumgartner, Senior Editor at Light Reading.
And I'm Michael Collette, the CEO of Run3TV.
All right, Michael, good to see you. It's been a little while since we've had a chance to connect.
Yes, it has, but it's been a good long while. We've always connected very well.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think, we were talking about earlier, going back to like the early days of digital cable and interactive television. And yeah, you were right in the middle of all that back in those days. But these days, you're in the middle of kind of a transition going on in the U.S. broadcast industry with ATSC 3.0, and you're running a company called Run3TV since last fall. Right? So, I mean, we've done a little bit of coverage on it, kind of being an app platform for 3.0. So just expand a little bit about the company and its role in the whole 3.0 dynamic.
Sure. So what we provide is an application framework for NextGen TV applications, right? So it's interesting. It reminds me a bit of the middleware that we developed at OpenTV back when we were in the cable world. What we really do is we enable developers like NBCU or Sinclair to build an application written to our developer layer, and then we translate that to all the operating systems and chipsets that are run by the various television manufacturers. So we're a write once, play many proposition at the application layer, right? So it's an HTML5 framework, and it runs on Sony, Samsung, LG, TCL, Hisense, and Panasonic TVs. And on the first three, goes back to 2000. So we've been supporting model years across all those devices. We also support a great many different set-top boxes. And so the range of integrations that we have and that we maintain is quite substantial for the industry.
Yeah. And is it all related to 3.0 and broadcast, or do you target other areas of different parts of the industry?
We're 100% focused on 3.0 and broadcast. Our ownership, we were spun out by Pearl Group. The spun out was actually in June of 2025 with investment from 6 major broadcast station groups. So that was Hearst, Sinclair, Scripps, TEGNA, Graham, and Gray, right? I think they represent about 35 or 40% of local broadcast advertising as a group. And so they, of course, have invested in us to develop capabilities that they can leverage to grow their businesses. So that really is our core focus, 3.0 for the local broadcast market. It has implications and opportunities for the broadcast networks as well, but the focus is really the broadcast station level.
Okay, and as a framework, or, I think middleware is an interesting way to put it. That way, it does kind of frame it for me, because, we did cover Open, True 2A and Open TV, and that whole OCAP, that whole segment. But from a general level, though, it looks like you're kind of dealing with or orchestrating kind of that fragmentation in between the different layers, or kind of having a commonality between them.
Right. I mean, it's a big job what we do to keep that framework. So it's a standards compliant framework. Everything that's in our application is part of the ATSC 3.0 standard. All the capabilities are built in, right? So the TV manufacturers need to have the framework because they want to be able to run the Olympics app when NBC puts out something like that. They want to make sure their TVs provide all the consumer benefits that are available in the market, and that's part of adopting the standard, right? The other thing we do, so we actually call it smart broadcasting. So smart broadcasting is using the HTML5 framework to take full advantage of what a smart TV can do, right? So you tend to think about interactive services as we're often described, and that's true. I mean, there's a menuing layer, and you can deliver services through it, but the menuing layer actually links to AVOD capabilities. So it's now linking the linear feed with streaming assets, right? You'll also see like a number of developers, particularly NBC, has put out a program restart capability. When you click the button, you actually are switching from a linear view of the show to a streaming view of the show. You've gone back to the beginning. The consumer loves that, by the way. It's the most popular app out there because they no longer have to show up sharply at 6 o'clock to watch the 6 o'clock news. Anytime during the news, they can hit the program restart button. And of course, from a business standpoint, that caused a significant increase in average viewing time because I took you from halfway through the show to the whole show, for example, right? So it's a lot about creating services for consumers that are quite different and leverage that hybrid streaming capability and leverage addressability as well. So we talk a lot about addressable advertising, and linear addressable advertising is coming much sooner than people think. We think we'll be live in the market next year on a significant number of TVs, for example. But linear addressable is also for content. So one of the CTOs of a PBS station was saying she would really love to have addressable video so that when extreme weather is coming into her state, they're a statewide service in Nebraska, she can have specific messaging for the area that's being hit by a tornado now. She doesn't have to worry the rest of the state that's not going to be hit by that tornado at all, or it's past or whatever. So there's some really interesting aspects of the system that leverage that addressability and the hybrid linear and OTT delivery of the video that are compelling. Think emergency as well. If you're living in LA and you have the big fires, you actually want to see very specific zones of emergency services. You want to know what's going on in your area. And if you live out in the valley where some of the fires are taking place, you really want to see what's going on in your market, in your geography, where the fires are, where you can and can't go, as opposed to if you're living out in Pacific Palisades, the valley's pretty far away. You want to know what's going on in your area. So there's some real benefits to addressable service delivery and what we kind of call hyper-local content.
Yeah, and that kind of fits in with the whole concept of local broadcasting. Yeah, it's that
taking it to another
localization.
Level. Yeah, this is taking it to another level. The other piece that you get is with the addressable advertising, of course. If I'm a car dealership in San Jose, I know the geography of the Bay Area, buying DMA level media, I'm doing it, but it's a little bit inefficient because I really can only sell to people within maybe a half hour of my dealership. And the people in the North Bay, not really that relevant. So if I have an address, no one's driving from, Marin County down to San Jose to go to the car dealership. They're going to go to the one close to them. So if I can actually zone my advertising, geofence my advertising with addressable ad units, I can then go into a bike shop and say, hey, I'll say a 5 miles radius. I can go into a car dealership. What's yours? Here's 50-mile radius. Great. So you have all kinds of hyper-locality in the advertising side of the business as well.
All right. Well, maybe I didn't even mention this up front, but we're talking at NAB 2025 in Las Vegas, and we are at the, the ATSC 3.0 area, NextGen TV.
Yep.
And there's a lot of examples of applications, but I mean, what for you though? What's your focus here at the event? I mean, it looks like you have a lot of application partners that are running on your framework.
So there are 7 or 8. I think we just added an 8th developers who are authorized developers on the framework. We used to provide applications as well as the framework. We've gotten out of the application business, and we want to make sure we are helping application developers and growing a vibrant ecosystem of developers. I think that from our point of view, the real thing we're doing at this show, for a very long time, ATSC 3.0 has been described as great video, great audio, and interactive services. How about you? When I hear the term interactive services, I think about interactive television. And although I'm a fan of interactive television, it is not going to transform the world from a business standpoint. What we're really doing is we're peeling the lid off of that concept of interactive services. So actually, there's much more going on here. In addition to the application stuff we talked about, we also generate user-level data for all the households that connect to the system. So there's a great big data part of this, right? We're starting this year to build new data-driven ad sales capabilities for our broadcasters that leverage the data we have now to start doing things like cross-platform advertising. This is
going into mobile, or what do you mean by cross-platform?
No, what I mean is an advertiser will be buying linear ads and they'll be buying digital ads.
Oh.
And today, generally speaking, the linear buy and the digital buy are occurring separately. There's a lot of overlap, which they call waste. What we're able to do is say, hey, we can actually tell you which household saw the linear ad. So you can go in and pitch the digital buy and say, hey, I will only sell you the unreached portion of your target audience. You've already reached them on linear. So it's a way of a much more efficient media plan for the digital buyer for that brand. That's a service that's just going into POC right now. A second service that will roll out later in the year is called data-driven linear. This is just a way to improve to do yield optimization on linear ad sales. Cable does this all day, every day today. They have a big data set, and what they'll say is, hey, why don't we take your target audience, let's say it's new truck contenders for the Ford dealership, let's map it up against our viewing data, and then let's pick the shows that deliver your core audience the best, with a high index for your target audience, right? And that ends up delivering a smaller media plan that has a lower effective CPM because there's more people in the buy, right? And so it gets actually a higher price. So you might move your CPM on that media plan from $30 to $40, less inventory sold at a higher price. It's a great opportunity for companies that are generally sold out in their prime time.
Okay. Well, and then what is the business model then for Run3TV? Are you doing these things like data services and advanced advertising, or
Right.
working with the app developers? You get like a cut of revenue from them, or kind of what's the business model?
So we are currently mainly in the software licensing business, and that's just sort of what we had when we started, right?
Okay.
And the software licensing business, I mean, we're 9 months old, right? So the software licensing business is basically a fee per station per year. My goal is actually to bring that down rather quickly, right?
Okay.
We're piloting new services, the data-driven linear service later this year, the cross-platform service now, and as part of that, we're sorting out the details of what our business, what we should charge our customers for those services. So I would say that the business model is evolving right now, right? But in general, the data we generate is clearly a very valuable asset. It can be used in a lot of ways to monetize. I think that it's reasonable for us to capture some participation in that revenue. Because we're owned by broadcasters, you can expect our participation to be very reasonable and to shrink over time as we scale. Because we're not trying to grow a unicorn. We're trying to grow a stable service provider that's profitable but very, very reasonable and increasingly efficient over time. The other area that's very interesting is advanced advertising. When you look at how a linear addressable ad event occurs, it occurs in our framework, right? It's a high value activity. But exactly how much lift the broadcasters get is a little bit TBD. So we're kind of studying it and looking at it and sort of, okay, what is the sort of reasonable, very fair, maybe even smaller than fair price that we might charge as part of our service, all under development right now and subject to, I've got a customer board, and so they all approve these changes. So it's currently the official business model and the right one is software licensing, but I expect that to change.
All right. And like big picture, give us a status of where you are in terms of being deployed, right? Obviously, we know there's some numbers about the markets that have 3.0 capabilities. Now, are you supported in all those markets and all the TVs and receivers that can do a 3.0 broadcast, or is it a subset of that?
So all of the 3.0 TVs that I'm aware of support our framework. I'm not aware of any end device that doesn't support the framework that's got a 3.0 logo on it. There are probably 500 local broadcast stations that are transmitting a 3.0 signal. We're on about half of those have a Run3TV application. When I build my forecast for the growth in Run3TV households, I first look at the likely growth in the number of total 3.0 households, and then I have a percentage penetration of that for Run3TV. It's currently at around 50%, and I expect it to converge on 100% over the next 5 to 7 years, because the business value and the service value of Run3TV is extremely high, and the cost is quite low. So I believe we will end up on very close to 100% of 3.0 households.
Okay. Now I want to talk a little bit about the applications that run on the framework. I mean, right now, what are some of the more popular ones that are in the market today, and what are some examples of applications that are being developed that you're excited about? Being as specific or anecdotal as you can be on the latter.
Sure. My favorite app visually is the NBCU app. It was developed for the NBC O&Os. I think they put a lot of energy into a nice broadcast look and feel. And it's a very rich app. It's got a lot of NBC VOD assets in it. That's cool. I also really love an app that I just got to know much better that was produced for Nebraska Public Media. And it's a really interesting sort of interpretation of what a broadcast app should be for a local PBS station. And so they included like links to their streaming services that they have, and links to their radio stations. And they have a little QR code that you can use to link to donate, and a QR code you can link to their newsletter. And they've got really cool local content in Nebraska. They feature their Nebraska content for the Nebraska football. Mm-hmm. There's a whole they're obviously very big on that.
Yeah.
And then they have the national content from NPR, that's PBS, not NPR, that they're also able to provide. And I think before too long, a link to the CTV paid app, so they can generate some revenue from that. So I like it. It's well expressed. It's visually cool, and it's thoughtful. It captures their strategy well. our developers on the floor have got a couple new apps. Game Loop is a new broadcast application. So it's basically a bunch of apps that are being broadcast as a data file. It only uses 50 kilobits of broadcast capacity, but you can download a whole bunch of casual games. So it's Tetris and all the and these sorts of things, right? But it's a free app, and it shows up in the program guide, and it's a rev share for the local stations.
With advertising?
With advertising, yeah. So the rev share is based on the advertising,
okay,
right? We also have a new app that we've brought to market that's cool mainly because it's free. So we have a free option for people who want to get into the market, don't have I'm not charging a license fee for it, and the application developer isn't charging a fee. It's the same one developed that did Game Loop. That also has a little bit of ad support in it, but it includes a privacy policy, so I can collect data, and I share the data with the local broadcaster who wants to start getting familiar with the data. What can I do with this? Can I do these cool ad-supported things? There's a lot of people who are kind of very early on the adoption curve. That app is designed for those folks. There's also, if you want to have a look at it, there's some vision forward demos here. It's a company called Oxygile, which is out of Eastern Europe. They're very cool dudes, and they've built a really pretty kind of high value, high production value vision app that they're showing here today that they said they could actually produce live in about a month. And it's just got a little bit richer features in the way it's presented, right? I think it's really, really cool. So there's a lot going on in the app space. I would say we're at a stage right now where many broadcast stations have deployed kind of a basic app that we made available for free that does the job. You can load your AVOD assets into it. You can brand it with your logo. It's reasonably broadcast looking. I think we're ready to start building new apps with a little bit more strategy and with measurement. Like, all right, the point of having an app is to improve viewing time and maybe even to improve viewership. Like, am I appealing to a wider audience because I have a more contemporary experience, right? I have all this AVOD stuff. But you should measure that. And then you should go iterate it, and you should measure it, like website style, right? So I think we're headed, it is a website, we're headed into a much more creative period from an application development standpoint.
The last thing is, we probably covered some of this ground already, but if you had to boil it down, what's your top priority for this year? I mean, we're already in April, but it sounds like you have a lot happening, and a lot of it's gonna depend on how the broadcasters roll it out. But I mean, how are if you had?
Yeah, I would say my top priority is to get one or two data-driven ad sales services running, demonstrably producing incremental revenue. I think that's really going to be a head turner for the industry, and it can actually be quite significant revenue. So supporting the growth of real revenue generating services based on the data is probably my top priority. We have a lot of other things to do. We're really heavy into the development of and planning for the rollout of the linear addressable capability. We have a lot of work to do on just being ready for the OEMs to go from high-end models. We ship 5 million 3.0 TVs a year right now. We're about 15 million TVs shipped so far. We want to get that to the full 40 million, but to do that, we really have to improve our resilience and get the OEMs comfortable that all the tools are in place to manage that kind of scale without having a bunch of problems. So there's a lot of focus on making ready for scale as well. But for sure, top line priority is helping our station groups produce new revenue.
Okay. Well, great. Well, thanks for running through everything going on at Run3TV, and it's going to be something we're going to keep an eye on, particularly as 3.0 continues to get rolled out and new applications are developed for it, other use cases. But we'll look forward to staying in touch, and good luck the rest of the show.
Excellent, thank you. And make sure you pay attention to that rollout schedule. The FCC is expected to put out a notice of proposed rulemaking this summer, and that's going to tell us exactly how fast this is going to happen. It looks like it's happening faster than we thought.
Okay, we'll definitely keep an eye out for that. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you for your time.